I think the idea here is to get more investment into Tamil Nadu. This is a good time to focus on trying to attract global investors. Many are looking for an alternative to China, but many are also looking to address the big Indian market. And Tamil Nadu is a good gateway for them to come into India and to invest for even the Indian market. So I think this is a good time to alert investors to the possibilities in India, especially in Tamil Nadu. And I think the point of this kind of investor meet is for them to also make contacts with local industry, with others who have already been in Tamil Nadu. We saw some of them earlier this morning who can tell of their experiences and then can convince them that investing in India is a good thing. So this meet and greet is often useful in opening doors. Of course, you have to follow up and you have to make sure that those who are interested actually come in and put the investment.
So this time, South Tamil Nadu is focused mainly Thuthukudi and Samar. What do you think about that? The undeveloped areas now it's.
I think it's broader than that. I think the idea is to bring investors in. Of course, if they go to less developed areas, they will find potentially more workers there. Plus, it will be beneficial for the greater equality within the state. But I don't think the intent is just to push them into those areas. It's more general.
Sir, the non-Mudalvan Pittam you said about non-Mudalvan Pittam. How do you think, sir?
I think these skilling programs are quite important. I think more broadly, you have to create more jobs for the skills people have, but you also have to create skills for the jobs that are possible. And I think both sides have to be worked on. So non-Mudalvan is an attempt to increase the skills in the working population so that they can get the jobs that will be available. So that's important.
Yeah. So my question is that the 1 trillion economy that has been mentioned, the EAC, the Economic Capacity Council, how happy are you with the kind of progress that you have made? Because there have been some reports that the number of reports like the electricity reforms report which has been tabled by it has not yet seen the light of the day. There has been no action so far. How happy are you with the kind of progress that is being made? Are you able to meet the timelines that have been set by you?
I think it's important to remember this is an advisory council. It's not an operational council.
Right.
So when we are asked for advice, we give that advice, and occasionally we give advice which is not asked for also. I think on the specific report you asked, Mr. Subramaniam has prepared, Dr. Subramaniam has prepared that report, and he's in discussion with the government on implementation. As he said in this panel setting, he is confident that the government wants to do something about it, and the actions will emerge over time.
So, during the panel discussion, you were mentioning about the milk, being a product which Tamil Nadu has to contribute. But then, given that in the case of Karnataka, the kind of competition with Nandini brand itself is something which Avan is not able to accept. How do you think we are prepared to accept a global entry of brands?
I think if you are competitive within a highly competitive country, you become globally competitive. So I think the point is we need to see what it takes to compete with neighboring states, but in that process also then be able to compete globally. Which means on every dimension we have to increase milk yields, for example, make it easier, to collect, refrigerate, and then process. Because ultimately you're not going to be selling milk; you'll be selling milk products. How to increase value added in those products? All this is something that will take, effort, but I think it has great remunerative value for our farmers, and is something that could be very valuable for the state. So I think we need to focus on how to do this.
Okay. So 2047.
Anybody else has questions? Let me just ask if anybody else has.
your thing about manufacturing was services. Can services create a job opportunity or a number of jobs, the multiplier effect we call in manufacturing? Can services do that?
See, you're doing a service job. That cleaner on the street is doing a service job. The tourist guide is doing a service job. The waiter in the hotel is doing a service job. So when we think of service jobs, we somehow think only of IT. There are so many other service jobs which are beyond IT. And what you increasingly see is manufacturing itself is becoming more of a service-oriented job. So I gave the example of coders who are coding for Tesla, 40 million lines of code. So I wouldn't make the distinction that starkly. I would say that let's create jobs wherever we find them. What I would resist is the notion that we need huge subsidies in order to get low-skilled manufacturing. I would instead say, let's invest in people. Let's have skilling schemes like Nan Mudalvan. Let's improve the quality of our universities. Let's improve the quality of our schools. Early childcare. Those are ways that we will improve the workforce. The jobs will come.
So one of the reasons why they are looking at manufacturing now is the supply chain disruptions happened affected China.
Right.
We're too dependent
Right.
on China. So that's one reason why India and other countries are looking at bringing that low-cost manufacturing.
Right. For India, it is much. I think for the West, in some of these strategic areas like chip manufacturing, drones, etc., there is a worry about being overly dependent on China.
Right.
I think for India, the issue more is that we are seeing a lot of cheap Chinese goods come in.
Right.
I think while we should try and improve the quality, the capabilities of our manufacturing, typically we have been much more competitive in the higher value-added manufacturing. Take, for example, two-wheelers. Chinese haven't made big inroads in two-wheelers. That's because there is a little more value added there than in commodity manufacturing. So I would say, by all means, let us improve manufacturing, but let's also focus on where our strengths are. And our strengths are in the higher value added areas. Let's see what we can do there.
How would you rate India being able to attract the China Plus One strategy?
It's
How
not.
would you rate India's performance so far?
If you look at FDI over the last 2 or 3 years, when the China Plus One strategy has been big, we have underperformed relative to some other countries. So we need to do better. We need to do more.
What do we need to do? What do you think?
I think focus on the basics, because I think you can only bribe manufacturers to come in through special subsidies and special tax dispensations only for a little while. What you need to do is get them to come in because it's a better environment to do business here. You have better logistics. So we're working on the logistics. There's a lot of work being done on improving logistics. But workforce, make them come here because they want the workforce. So that's one example that we saw this morning. A lot of talk about Tamil Nadu's workforce being something that is more attractive, especially because more women are participating. And in some industries, employers look for women to come in there. So those are areas that I think I would focus on. Can we make it more attractive without going overboard on subsidies and lower taxes?
India's lost out to Vietnam in terms of
Vietnam has an advantage. It's part of all the regional trade agreements. We are not. And so if you want to produce, back and forth within the region, it's easier to be in Vietnam than in India. We need to address some of those issues.
So what would you have done differently if you were in the RBI space? What would you have done differently in the last 3 years?
So I don't comment on RBI policy. Sorry.
He has a flight to catch.
Last two questions. Last two questions.
Tamil Nadu government providing lot of free scheme like free bus for women and providing lot of free scheme. It will affect the Indian Tamil Nadu economy. What do you think about it?
See, you have to evaluate each scheme on what it's trying to do and whether it has overall benefits which outweigh the costs. For example, when you offer free transport to women, one of the biggest problems is we have a very low female labor force participation. Very few women relative to men are working. So if we want to get women to work, one thing to ensure is that they have safe transport. And if making transport free gets more women to work, you get some compensation because those working women will earn wages, pay taxes, and that will help somewhat. It is also socially beneficial to get more women to work. So you have to evaluate these schemes on an overall basis. I think that's the way to look at it rather than individually, is this necessarily good or bad?
Despite the popularity of UPI,
Sorry.
We are projecting a growth of 7.3%. Forex is like highest ever. GDP
Highest ever where?
like it was, and it is almost like in the good zone right
In
now.
India?
Forex reserve.
For the
Forex reserves.
Forex reserves. I'm sorry.
And the inflation is almost under control apart from like few months, for few months. So what future of Indian economy do you see?
I mean,
also do you think
Yeah.
that benchmark of that 4% to 6%, is that the right benchmark or should we
4%, 6% benchmark
the RBI
of
CPI band?
the inflation target.
Yeah. Has it
See,
not made
I
that?
don't
Do you
comment on RBI as far as I
No,
can
but you can
because
comment on
I mean, I
strategy,
set
right?
that target.
No, is
So
that- is that benchmark
I don't disagree with it because the idea behind the 4% was that inflation abroad would be about 2%, and our real exchange rate appreciation over time because of productivity growth would be another 2%. Add those two together, if we have 4% inflation, we will probably at that point have a stable exchange rate. A lot of people get very worried if they see the Indian rupee depreciating against the dollar. At about 4% inflation, we should have a relatively stable rupee-dollar exchange rate. That was sort of the notion of why 4% as the midpoint. And it gave us some room to move up and down. I don't see a reason why we should change that at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.